I'd like to invite Dr. Hanna and Colonel Tom Mannion to join me at the podium. The recipient of our first honorary degree today, unfortunately, is no longer with us. Mrs. Janet Mannion passed away on April 24th, 2012. Dr. Hanna and I had the honor of conferring Janet's honorary degree at her bedside on April 20th, 2012. Today, we celebrate and honor her memory and invite retired Colonel Thomas Mannion to receive Janet's degree posthumously. Dr. Hanna.
I will now read the citation for Mrs. Mannion. As the mother of a heroic Marine who lost his life in a foreign war, her first instinct in the middle of a personal tragedy was to reach out to others. When letters of condolence arrived with checks, Mrs. Mannion's thought not of herself. Instead, she established the Travis Mannion Foundation as a way to honor the fallen by challenging the living. During a period of grave sadness, with inspiration from her only son, First Lieutenant Travis Mannion, she served as the foundation's chair, defined its mission, oversaw its growth, and led it to success. She focused on 3 areas. The first of these, the Character Does Matter leadership program, which brings the stories of fallen heroes to schools around the nation to inspire young men and women to perform community service. Second, were the challenge grants, which are awarded to veterans and family members of fallen heroes in order to keep alive the legacies of departed heroes. Third, and perhaps most visible, was the 9/11 Heroes Run, a 5-kilometer race held annually to commemorate the victims of the 2001 terrorist attacks. Because of her drive, determination, and unwavering dedication, what began as a local race has grown to 37 cities around the world. In the process of this and other work, Mrs. Mannion became a leading voice for military families and received an appointment to the Advisory Commission of Arlington National Cemetery. Now there, be it resolved, for all the aforementioned reasons, that the trustees, president, and faculty of Delaware Valley College hereby confer upon Janet Mannion the Bachelor of Arts degree, honoris causa, with all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto, given posthumously under the seal of the college in Doylestown on this 19th day of May, 2012.
Well, this is a great honor for our family, and I want to thank Delaware Valley for that recognition for Janet. When she received the award in the hospital, she only had a few things to say, but it really sort of sums up who Janet was. And she mentioned that it wasn't about her, it was about so many family and friends that made a difference and helped her make it happen. And that's sort of who Janet was. Our pledge to her is we're gonna keep going with her great work. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make a difference. And again, thanks for this tremendous honor for our family. God bless.
Would Mrs. Rita Marini please join me? Rita?
Mrs. Marini's citation. A lifelong learner and seeker of wisdom, you provided quiet inspiration to the leadership of Delaware Valley College for more than a decade. You began your quest of knowledge by enrolling at Brooklyn College. An occurrence of marriage resulted, and you left in your junior year to become the wife of Gerard Marini, who would later serve with distinction as trustee of Delaware Valley College, including 6 years as chairman of the Board of Trustees. In his service to the college, he was not alone. You were his partner, offering years of guidance and direction to all his decisions. In retrospect, Gerard lovingly describes you as his most efficient resource and says your valued counsel was always the result of deep and thoughtful reflection. All the while, you never ceased in your quest for a broader understanding of the world. For 20 years, you attended New York University as a non-traditional student, taking courses in politics and international studies. That is your passion, along with the opera, museums, leadership of the Osteoporosis Foundation of St. Barnabas Hospital, your 2 children, and 5 grandchildren. Now, therefore, be it resolved, for all the aforementioned reasons, that the trustees, president, and faculty of Delaware Valley College hereby confer upon Rita Miller Marini a Bachelor of Arts degree, honoris causa, with all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto, given under the seal of the college at Doylestown on this 19th day of May 2012.
I'd like to now invite Lieutenant Governor James Cawley to the podium.
Lieutenant Governor Cawley, active in your community at an early age, you rose to high office in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and have served with honor and distinction, bringing great credit to yourself and to your home county of Bucks. As a young man with a law degree from Temple University, you provided guidance and leadership to the Bristol Township School Board of Directors. You were mentored by State Senator Tommy Tomlinson, who made you his chief of staff. Having showcased your abilities there, you were appointed to the position of Bucks County Commissioner and later elected to that office. At the county seat in Doylestown, you built a reputation as a fiscal conservative, an advocate for technological innovation, and a promoter of economic development. Seeking to do more, you ran for lieutenant governor. The citizens of this great commonwealth endorsed your candidacy, and in 2011, you became the 32nd person to hold the state's second highest honor. While in Harrisburg, you never forgot the county back home and readily and willingly volunteered your time to many worthy nonprofit organizations. Therefore, it is to be resolved for all the aforementioned reasons that the trustees, president, and faculty of Delaware Valley College hereby confer upon James F. Cawley the Doctorate of Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto, given under the seal of the college at Doylestown on this 19th day of May 2012.
So I have this kind of lengthy introduction of the Lieutenant Governor here, but instead I'm just going to simply say that the Lieutenant Governor, Jim Cawley, has been a remarkably effective legislator in Bucks County. His leadership, he left a significant mark on the county. His work in the Commonwealth is outstanding. He's a great friend of Delaware Valley College. He's a man of integrity, a man who gets done what he says he's going to get done. I'm proud to be introducing him today as Dr. James Cawley. Jim?
That's right, you can call me doctor now. President Brosnan, members of the faculty and staff, distinguished guests, Rita, Tom, the graduating class of 2012. I am deeply honored to be part of your 113th commencement exercises. As we gather here today I want you to reflect for a moment. Graduates, you are among the lucky few. Most of the world lives in poverty. It struggles daily for water, for food, for shelter. Most of the world is ruled by tyrants, dictators, oligarchs. The people in those regions of the world cannot speak their minds without fear. They cannot try their own hand at government unless first taking up a rifle in the other hand. In many ways, they do not live in the same world you inhabited in your youth and in your days here at Delaware Valley College. Now, you are about to enter that much larger world. That world won't merely test what you know. It will truly test who you are. And because you are educated, you will be expected at some point to lead. You might be called on to lead a family, or a town council, or a group of acquaintances. You don't have to be a president or a lieutenant governor to lead. In fact, most of our leaders today fill their roles without really realizing that they hold them. You see, it's an article of faith that Americans, by definition, are lucky. We have the vote. Our press is free. If you don't like a president or a governor, you not only get to say it, you not only get to put up a sign, you not only get to post a declaration, but you can climb to the top of Lasker Hall and yell it to everyone who passes by. The reason the founders were so clear about this freedom of expression was their faith in humanity. A democratic republic at the time was a very new, very untested idea. The Europe from which America had sprung had been ruled by emperors and kings. The idea that a majority of the people voting on how to live and conduct their business seemed at the time like a fad, and it was a dangerous one at that. Now we're called on every day to complete that grand experiment, to complete our America. And completing it we do with help from people from the other 4 continents. Russian Jews bring with them a religion they were once forbidden to practice. Tibetan Buddhists are free to unfurl the flag of their homeland. Indians from South America and workers from Central America can live without expecting a strong man's knock on their door at midnight. Make no mistake, we are not free from fear in this country. The world will always be a dangerous place. But we can live in this country with an equal hope for good. Sure, our justice system is imperfect, but it's there, and it functions. Our elections sometimes disappoint, particularly when I don't get more than the other guy. But we get a chance to vote. Our wealth rises and falls in cycles, but we all ride the same wage. What college does for us, if it does its job, is make us more complete people. I know that many people go to college and study for a specific career, and that's fine, but it's not the whole purpose. Those required distribution courses had an important role. They are behind the meaning of a liberal arts education. You study broadly, you grow. That's why college is a place where mathematicians read Milton. It's the reason future English teachers learn more about art history, and that tomorrow's chemists know just a little about the Ottoman Empire. If this place didn't change you, teach you to be interested, even passionate, about something that you didn't know anything about 4 or 5 years ago, then you need to try again. Would you say, Darla, up for trying again? Make it a 4-0 this time? I'm not suggesting, hey, mine was a lot lower than hers, so I can do that. Somewhere around 2. I'm not suggesting a new round of student loans, and I'm certainly not suggesting that you start from the beginning. But what I am saying is this: you still have books. You still possess curiosity. You still have lives ahead, which you can keep learning. This is not the end of your education. Ralph Waldo Emerson understood this when he wrote, "The things taught in schools and colleges are not education, but the means to an education." So what things must you educate yourselves on now? There are a long list of things that we all must continue to learn, but perhaps the greatest one is learning simply how to be yourself. Some of you came here leaning left, and now you're leaning right. Or you were conservative, and now question whether or not you might be liberal. Some came as unbelievers, who now, after several exams, leave here trusting in God. A few of you who are sports fans might have even become Yankees fans. To you, and I want you to listen to this very clearly, to you I say, there is always time to correct a mistake and grow. What you need most in the coming years is a sense of belief. Not simply a creed or a philosophy, but a deep running conviction to do what it is that you believe to be right. Everyone wants to be popular. Popular choices make for popular people in the here and now. But your obligation is not to this moment. Your obligation is to yourselves and to the future. The people who built this college never lived to see this graduating class. Some of their first students shouldered a gun and went off to the First World War. They had very strong ideas about human freedom, about the future of democracy, about how to realize the ideals of our nation's founders. They made a choice and they went. And it's easy to forget that when they did so, that some would not return. This tradition of hard choices distinguishes us, even at a personal cost. You know, discourse in this country has become pretty coarse, pretty angry. We're aiming now at the person rather than the idea far too often. Cable networks have come up with a formula. Take one position from one extreme opposite and pit him or her against the polar opposite, and they call that balance. That's not balance. It's not reason. It's not discourse. It's our age's version of a dogfight. That's what face people every day who have to make hard or unpopular choices. It's what faced a man named John Peter Altgard over a century ago. He was one of those early versions of the American dream. He'd been born in Prussia, a place ruled by an emperor. His family came to this country when he was a boy. He fought in the Civil War, came home, and worked his own way through law school. He finally settled in Illinois, where he became one of the wealthiest men in Chicago. He owned blocks and blocks of downtown Chicago. He was set. He later became governor. And even though he was a fairly conservative man, he was troubled by something on his desk. It was a set of papers commuting the sentences of 3 men he knew to be wrongly condemned. But the conviction was popular. These men were anarchists, troublemakers. They were viewed as a nuisance at best and a threat to order at worst. But the more Altgeld studied their convictions, the more he knew that they had had an unfair trial and the evidence against them was shaky. And he knew that 4 of their co-defendants had already wrongfully been hanged. You see, Altgeld hated anarchism, but he hated injustice more. He not only issued commutations, he issued outright pardons. Newspapers around the country railed against him. Several noted that he was foreign-born. From there, they drew the conclusion that Altgeld himself must have been an anarchist. He made a difficult decision. It bothered him to clear an anarchist. He viewed that as a dreadful breach of trust. But he more to his core believed to hang one man wrongly meant that other men could also be hanged wrongly. Ben Franklin once said something about us either hanging together or hanging separately. Altgeld knew the danger of not making the hard choice. He decided it was time to stop watering the tree. The result was this: Altgeld lost the next election. The legislature didn't even give him a chance for a customary farewell speech. He went home, and his business started to fail. Soon thereafter, he died in 1902 at the age of 54, broken in everything except the eyes of history. It remained for John F. Kennedy to name him as one of his profiles in courage. Even one of his critics, looking back on Altgeld the politician, had to acknowledge Altgeld the man. That critic wrote, "Altgeld was no saint. He could maneuver and demagogue with the best of them, but behind those eyes beat a heart in tune with the aspirations of those on the outside, a heart that hated injustice, a heart with the courage to act." Remember this man. Remember his lesson, because while it's easy to grasp the idea of courage, it's very hard to carry out. God has given you brains. DelVal has helped to fill them. The courage in your heart you must now put to use. This place has prepared you for the next stage of your education. As young people whose minds have been broadened, you now need to be open, not just to new ideas, but to old values as well. How you combine the two will decide whether you can someday make unpopular choices that will ultimately help the very people that might condemn you. In those hard moments, you will, with the help of your education and the grace of God, feel the stirrings of leadership. I'm going to tell you, that's the end of my prepared speech. On the way here, I was remarking to somebody that, frankly, I couldn't remember what my commencement speaker said to me, and he was Bill Cosby. And my second commencement speaker for law school was the Solicitor General of the United States at the time, one of the most boring speakers I ever heard in my whole life. And you know what? You're not going to remember what I said. You're not going to remember who I am. But I want you to focus on this. Remember this. All the other aside, remember this. Make your lives extraordinary. If you are going into business, be the next Bill Gates. You have a leg up on him. You have a college degree. He doesn't. If you're going to be a farmer, feed the world. If you're going to be an educator, change the system, reform it, make it better. Dream big dreams. President Ronald Reagan said over 30 years ago, "We have every right to dream heroic dreams. After all, we are Americans." Dream big. Have the courage to act. Make your lives extraordinary. God bless you all, and may God continue to bless Delaware Valley College.